Alright, welcome back my Destiny dudes. Today's video is another competitive tip video for new players who want to play in the comp arena. Now this is for people that normally play PvE, but they do want to go after the emblem that is now being offered with the various seasons. These tip videos are designed with the science of personal training and the evidence-based methods that I used for coaching with that in mind, and to show you what it takes to actually get this emblem. Getting to Ascendant rank in Destiny with all the things that are offered is incredibly challenging, but I want to make sure that you new players have an opportunity to go after that. And I have some videos that are going to come out for mid-level players as well as high-level professional, expert, and whatever you want to call yourself, hardcore gamers. I have some videos designed around that as well. I think you'll be surprised by the types of recommendations that I have coming from the athletic realm that is in fact transferable in its methods and its application to an esports realm or a competitive shooter realm. So if you guys find this information useful, like, subscribe, share the videos. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Quick plug, if you guys are interested in supplements, Prestige Labs is the sponsor of my channel. So if you want something that's going to help you lose weight, get strong, all of that, click the link in the description for 40% off your total order. So the first thing I want to do is reference my previous video. There were 3 tips in that video. Tip number 1 is set realistic expectations. Number 2 was use what you're good with. And number 3 is to play with confidence. If this video is brand new to you, it's a good idea to go through and check out that first video so that you get a good reference point for how I started all this. And just like in personal training, the practice, the weights, the repetitions, all of that stuff is stacking on top of the basic and foundations of tips for new players. So please go ahead and check out that video and where it is leading to next. So I've got 3 more tips for you in this video. Let's go over tip number 1. That is create 2 PvP specific loadouts and save them. Let me show you exactly how to do that and give you an example of what a decent PvP loadout looks like. Alright my dudes, this is going to take a little bit of time investment so that you can get it right. But creating 2 specific PvP loadouts that are separate but whatever you're comfortable with, the first thing we need to do is go right here to whatever the subclass is that you're using. Now set this up in however you feel best with, right? So if you're a Night Stalker subclass or if you prefer to use the Gunslinger, whichever one of those 2 that you feel you are better with, you want to make sure that you have a loadout for both of them. Now let's go into what a loadout would look like for something like that. The number 1 thing that I do after I set up my subclass is I go to the weapon that I want to use in the competitive environment. Let's say the Crimson Hand Cannon, for example. Now, Crimson Hand Cannon, let's choose our secondary. Let's go with the Fusion Rifle. You can choose anything that you want, but let's say that's what we're using. You guys pick whatever you're comfortable with. That is a reference to my first tip and my second tip in the first video. So Crimson, then we got Plug 1. Those are 2 weapons that I plan on using with this subclass specifically. The next and most important thing is going to be your armor mod, specifically for your helmet and your chest. This is the most basic that I can make this. Go into your helmet. What you're looking for is called targeting mods. So you see this one has solar targeting. That's not going to work if you have on a kinetic weapon. Referring back to this, Crimson is a kinetic weapon, whereas this weapon is a stasis weapon, and this one is a strand weapon. So make sure you match up the associating mod for the helmet with targeting to the thing that you have equipped. Kinetic targeting is good for Crimson. I want you to put at least 1 or 2, but I would normally put at least 1. So now we have 1 kinetic for the Crimson, arc targeting for the secondary weapon. In higher level play, you tend to use your secondary weapon first and your primary as a backup, but this is new beginner play and we want to get you guys going, so however you feel like you're going to have to play with it a little bit, but however you feel like you're most comfortable. The next one is going to be for your armor mod. Now, this is important for your primary in my opinion. Kinetic, unflinching. That's what we're looking for. So go down here, hit unflinching. Now, you've already got the basics for 1 setup right there. That should get you started. The other stuff we could talk about, but this is for beginners, so I just want you to have the basics and not feel overwhelmed. Go to this section over here where it says loadouts, and you're going to save it to one of these. If you don't have these down here, then just save it to one of those right there. If you press over, you can change what it's called: Crucible, Gambit, Raid, Dungeon. Look for one that's called Trials or Beta, Gamma, whatever is going to help you remember what this is. And then just hit Save New or override another one. That's it, my dudes. That's one loadout. I want you to create two, and I want them to be separate. Different weapons as well as different subclass. And I say that because you're going to come against people that are very, very proficient at fighting against this specific subclass. They probably see it a lot. So having something on backup like this gunslinger one, for example, I have it right here, and that way you can switch between them as you need to, either in-game or in between games. So if you're not doing well with one of your subclasses or one of your weapons, sometimes that happens, then you can switch over to the other one and see if you do a little bit better. So now that we have an understanding of how two different PvP loadouts work, let's move on to the next tip in this video. The next tip in this video is never ADS longer than 3 seconds, no matter where you are in the map. As you get better and as you improve, that timer actually goes down to 1 to 2 seconds. Your radar is one of the most important bits of information gathering elements that you have in this game. The longer you sit there holding down your ADS and you're aiming down sights, the less likely you are to have information both to convey to your teammates and to yourself, so you know where to move, where to position, or where your enemy is moving and positioning. Radar and reacting to radar is important because you can't do that if you are blind by aiming down sights for too long. So try to aim down sights, practice it for a 3-second increment, but I want you to start to tone that down to 2 seconds, and once you get really good, 1 to 2 seconds in between, that time frame is usually considered to be proficient. That way you have constant information coming in and constant availability of information to move around as you need to, so that you don't get flanked, so that you don't get surprised, and you can begin moving and positioning in such a way that you can counteract your target. It is very hard if you are not getting opening shot on somebody. So in this game, you do not want to be surprised. So practice this. Do not aim down sight longer than 3 seconds if you're new, no longer than 2 seconds if you're more proficient in the comp arena. So quick recap, we've got two different PvP specific loadouts. We've got try not to ADS longer than 3 seconds, working your way down to 2 seconds. The last and final tip for this video is do not engage in open spaces. Unless you have to, only engage somebody when you're in a position of cover or that you can get to cover more quickly. Good players will punish you for being out in the open. The best way to increase your kill-death ratio is not through killing anybody, it's actually through survivability. Engaging from cover and retreating back to cover as needed so that you don't get picked, so that you don't be the first one to die, leaving your team in a 2v3, putting your team at an immediate disadvantage of being in a 2v3, which means the enemy now has higher probability of winning because the odds are now in their favor. So staying near cover, retreating back to cover because you're close to it at all times is the best way to survive, which then increases your odds of winning any given match or any given scenario, no matter what game mode you're actively playing in. I would personally rather have a teammate that gets more assists than kills and survives for longer instead of goes out into the open, gets maybe 1 or 2, but then puts us at an immediate positional disadvantage so that we end up losing in the long run. So retreat, stay near cover, survivability is key, do not engage in open spaces unless you absolutely have to. And I would argue if you have to, you probably put yourself at a disadvantage by being away from cover too soon or too often. So those are the main 3 tips for this video. What I want to do right now is recap all 6. Tip number 1, set realistic expectations. Number 2, use what you're good at. Number 3, always play with confidence. Alright, number 4 officially is to create 2 PvP specific loadouts. Number 5, do not ADS longer than 3 seconds, working that down to 2 seconds eventually. And the last and final tip between these 2 videos is to not engage in open spaces unless you absolutely have to. I've got 4 more tips coming in the next video for new players, and I really hope that between this season and next season and the seasons after that, this is going to help you guys both with Trials of Osiris and for the new competitive ranked game mode to get that awesome shiny new emblem. If you guys got any questions, comments, or anything like that, leave them in the comment section down below. Eventually I'll be doing tips for mid-level players so you guys can see what that looks like. And I think you'll be surprised at some of the stuff I can offer to the pro players out there based on my background with master training and coaching. Alright my dudes, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Any questions, leave them in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, all of that. Remember to check out Prestige Labs, link below for 40% off. Love all you guys. Keep it zen out there. I'll see you in the next one.